Good morning, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. My name is Fan Jiang. I'm an economist, but I've been learning Buddhism and traditional culture for years. It is an honor to moderate this panel discussion today. So we welcome our panelists on the stage. Reverend Tomioka. And Professor Bottom. Before we give the floor to our panelists, allow me to address a little bit about the theme of our panel, religious teachings and the well-being of youth from the economics perspective. Religious teaching provides emotional support, mutual aid networks, and crisis intervention, significantly lowering the incidence of mental health problems among adolescents. This in turn reduces medical expenditures and the burden on the social welfare. At the macro level, this support improves social stability and productivity, indirectly promoting economic growth. Religious teaching, such as group learning and skill training, help adolescents build social capital. Those activities enhance their resilience, communication skills, and moral judgment. This heightened human capital investment helps young people become more competitive in education and employment, ultimately improve personal and social economic well-being in the long term. Okay, today we have our first panelist, Professor Batomak from Institut Afrique Monde. Professor Batomak has already attended our International Peace Conference of 2018 and 2019. He shared with us his wonderful insights on the interreligious study of some African countries like Morocco, Egypt, and Tunisia. This time, Professor Batomak will talk about the impact of traditional African education on the well-being of young people. Professor Batomak, please take the floor.
Bonjour à tous. Au nom de l'Institut Afrique Monde, je voudrais remercier les organisateurs de cette magnifique conférence, la délégation permanente du Royaume de Thaïlande auprès de l'UNESCO, la Commission nationale thaïlandaise pour l'UNESCO et l'Organisation mondiale communiste, et sans lesquels nous ne serions pas là. Bien entendu, moi qui suis votre interlocuteur, je voudrais aborder ici l'impact de l'éducation traditionnelle africaine sur le bien-être des jeunes. L'Afrique est très souvent absente dans les grands débats et dans les grands échanges, en tant qu'une entité autonome, en tant qu'une entité prescriptrice de valeurs. Elle est souvent corrélée, très souvent quand on la présente. Donc, ces déclarations sont souvent circonstanciées. Je vais essayer ici d'aller très vite parce que le temps est court. C'est pour ça que je n'ai même pas proposé des visuels parce que je l'aurais fait. Alors, l'impact est l'action ou l'effet qu'exerce l'éducation traditionnelle sur le bien-être des jeunes. Pour ceux qui ont déjà rencontré des Africains dans leur vie, ou qui ont des amis africains, quand vous échangez avec eux, surtout ceux qui ont vécu en Afrique, qui ont grandi en Afrique. Ceux qui sont nés ici n'ont pas cette chance-là. Très peu, ils en ont, mais la majorité non. Vous verrez que dans les discours de vos amis ou partenaires africains, chaque fois qu'ils vous parlent d'eux, ils vous rappellent très souvent qu'ils ont été marqués par un enseignement d'une grand-mère, d'une tante, d'un oncle, d'un frère, parce que l'éducation en Afrique, elle n'est pas un substrat littéraire, elle n'est pas quelque chose qu'on suit et qui va de soi. Elle est quelque chose qui transforme l'homme, qui transforme l'humain. Si vous avez été éduqué en Afrique, vous êtes transformé certainement par ce que vous avez reçu dans un contexte africain. Alors, la démarche que je prends ici, je prends appui sur différentes références ou travaux sur l'Afrique qui visent à montrer la cohérence interne et qui sous-tend la vision du monde des Africains depuis leur conception de l'univers et de sa naissance jusqu'à celle du monde des Africains au-delà et des fins dernières en passant par la vie en société organisée autour de la notion de la maat, c'est-à-dire de l'harmonie cosmique, comme on peut aussi le dire, de la rectitude ou conduite morale de l'ordre et de l'équilibre du monde, de l'équité, de la paix, de la vérité et de la justice. C'est-à-dire que tout enseignement qui relève d'un enseignement encadré en Afrique, vous avez ces principes que je viens de citer que vous allez retrouver. C'est quasi mécanique et automatique. Venons-en à l'éducation. Au XXIe siècle, c'est-à-dire le siècle dans lequel nous sommes, l'éducation se situe au cœur des efforts déployés dans le monde moderne pour mettre en place une économie fondée sur le savoir. Elle est l'élément déterminant qui donne aux individus les moyens de devenir producteurs et les consommateurs de savoir du monde d'aujourd'hui. Elle est essentielle pour leur permettre de devenir des citoyens avertis et de s'épanouir. Elle est un moteur de la compétitivité économique, aussi bien que du développement des communautés. Cette manière-là de présenter l'éducation ne peut pas correspondre à ces éléments de critères que je viens de vous donner, qui est à proprement parler africaine. Celle-là, on peut remarquer que la définition que je viens de donner présente l'éducation dans une forme que j'appelle des démocraties consommatoires. C'est-à-dire on éduque les gens pour qu'ils soient, entre guillemets, des citoyens, mais qu'ils soient dans l'enjeu de la société qui favorise plus une société de la consommation, mais qui ne transforme pas l'homme, comme j'ai dit tout à l'heure, dans le caractère africain. Alors, si nous prenons un exemple de la charte, qui est la charte de Tourakantuga, qui est une charte qui a été créée dans le Mandé sous le règne de Sundiata, donc 1190, 1225, dans son article 9, elle nous dit ceci. L'éducation des enfants incombe à l'ensemble de la société. Et c'est très important. Je répète encore, l'éducation des enfants incombe à l'ensemble de la société. Dans la société moderne dans laquelle nous sommes, personne ne peut ici dire que l'éducation de ses enfants incombe à une société en dehors de lui en tant que père et mère. Le contexte africain ne reconnaît pas ce type d'éducation. Puisqu'un enfant qui vient en société, il s'insère dans un monde, et dans ce monde qui est complexe, et dans lequel, que ce soit son parent, ou le voisin, ou la tante, etc., il peut recevoir, sincèrement, une éducation. Alors, Dans l'Afrique des profondeurs, comme le dit un de mes maîtres, ou l'Afrique traditionnelle, une éducation est d'abord vertueuse. C'est-à-dire que pour donner une éducation, il faut s'appliquer à des vertus. Alors, elle doit être bonne. La qualité est importante parce qu'elle favorise préalablement la connaissance de soi. Parce qu'il faut d'abord se connaître pour connaître la place qu'on va occuper dans la vie. C'est cette connaissance de soi d'ailleurs qu'en Afrique qui permet, dans l'Afrique traditionnelle, de pouvoir gouverner les hommes. Aujourd'hui, les gens s'improvisent en capacité d'être chef d'un quartier en Afrique, d'être chef d'un village, etc. Dans l'Afrique traditionnelle, ce n'est pas possible. On n'a pas le droit, on ne peut pas d'ailleurs. Parce qu'il faut d'abord qu'on voit par tes épreuves et tes preuves que tu as su te gouverner. Si tu n'as pas su te gouverner, tu ne peux pas gouverner, encore moins ceux que tu ne connais pas. Donc, vous avez donc aussi ce caractère-là. Et quand on va plus loin, après le gouvernement de soi, il y a aussi celui de la nature, qui permet aussi d'entretenir la diversité des ancrages dans la culture et ses traditions, ainsi que l'adaptation à l'inconnu et la capacité de vivre avec les autres. Ce type d'éducation suppose de stimuler la curiosité et de prendre des risques de façon responsable. C'est-à-dire, c'est une éducation qui induit la responsabilité, comme je venais de le dire un peu avant, c'est-à-dire connaissance de soi pour mieux gouverner les autres. Donc, l'action de l'éducation pour l'élite, elle possède dans l'Afrique traditionnelle non pas de la littérature telle qu'on va fournir des livres, mais elle possède toute une série de choses à la base qui sont, par exemple, dès que vous êtes enfant, vous avez des berceuses. C'est-à-dire les enfants qui naissent, et après ils sont dans les bras de leur maman, elles leur chantent des berceuses. Mais ces berceuses sont un enseignement qui les prépare à la vie, qui les prépare à la consolation, qui les prépare à la patience, qui les prépare au bien-être. C'est pour ça que dans l'Afrique traditionnelle, vous pouvez évaluer cela, vous avez plus d'enfants qui sont sereins que d'enfants agités. Vous avez des enfants qui pleurent, mais que dès qu'ils entendent des comptines, ils savent qu'ils sont bercés par la présence de leur maman ou de leur tante, etc. Tout ceci participe d'un certain type d'éducation. Alors, il y a l'éducation par les proverbes aussi, les dictons, les maximes, qui nous enseignent sur la conception du monde en Afrique. On trouve des quantités d'autres sociétés aussi africaines et qui les pratiquent. Non seulement chaque pays prend conscience de leurs valeurs et s'efforce de les collecter, mais de nombreux efforts sont aujourd'hui déployés aussi dans le monde moderne pour les faire connaître à l'international et aussi les faire connaître à travers le monde. Tout d'abord, nous dit le savant Honorat Agassi. Honorat Agassi est un grand savant qui a travaillé dans cette maison pendant très longtemps au siècle dernier. Et voilà ce qu'il nous dit. Parlant des proverbes, il dit qu'il s'agit d'œuvres secondaires. De plus, nous avons affaire à des mots condensés, de longues et mûres réflexions, de résultats d'expériences 1000 fois confirmés. L'aspect anonyme des proverbes traduit leur insertion profonde au cœur de l'expérience de la vie collective, auprès de longs rodages et expérimentations. Cette forme d'expression laconique des résultats de nombreuses expérimentations faites sur la société, la vie, l'univers, n'est pas, la plupart des temps, une pensée qui va de soi. Parce que souvent, quand certains Africains disent « Ah, je vais dire un proverbe », comme il n'est pas assez cultivé et préparé, on croit que c'est une formule tout à fait qu'on peut n'importe qui. Mais c'est une manière réflexive à laquelle il dit le proverbe, et si vous lui dites de développer quelque chose sur ce proverbe, s'il n'a pas été préparé, il ne sait même pas ce que ça, à quoi ça induit. Et on adopte cet enseignement dans le contexte africain, qui est un contexte dans lequel tout ce qui est dit, notamment les proverbes, ça participe de ce type d'enseignement et de réflexion, donc qui porte sur les comportements sociaux, la morale, la politique, et s'interroge sur les catégories sociales, celle de la pensée, qui a pu émerger ou cristalliser, et sans oublier les effets qui seraient tous, dans tous les cas, considérés les proverbes comme l'expression d'une sagesse éternelle, parce qu'elle n'en est pas une sagesse éternelle, non, mais elle permet comme un outil de pouvoir accéder à un mode de pensée. À cet égard, nous trouvons particulièrement intéressant le relevé des proverbes fait par Sandal, le professeur Sandal, portant sur les différents thèmes, par exemple les proverbes sur la patience considérée comme une vertu, l'honnêteté considérée comme une vertu, la gratitude et l'ingratitude, la coopération de la réciprocité dans les relations humaines, l'ignorance, le manque d'information, l'expérience considérée comme la meilleure école, le leadership, le respect des aînés, la sagesse et la discrétion, et attendre des aînés le respect de soi attendu des aînés, les représentations, la forme de gravité, l'espoir et la persévérance, l'effet de boomerang aussi. Ce qu'il convient de noter en tout premier lieu, à propos de ces proverbes, émanant de ce qu'il convient, émanant de différentes sociétés africaines, c'est l'unité de la pensée africaine. C'est-à-dire qu'il y a dans les proverbes, vous pouvez les trouver dans différents pays africains, mais il y a des invariantes qui sont telles qu'elles ont une morale, une éthique, des valeurs qu'elles dégagent, etc., qui sont exactement les mêmes. Nous découvrons à ce niveau l'expression de l'intellect dans ce mode de manifestation de la réflexion que l'unité ne conçoit pas comme répétition, mais comme image des mots pour exprimer la même idée, mais consiste en une dynamique, un effort de métamorphose où la créativité de chaque groupe est évidente. Malgré cette absence de monotonie ou de répétition, les mêmes images et les mêmes mots de facture, la facture de ces condensés de réflexion sont similaires. Alors, il y a donc en deuxième partie un des caractères de la pensée africaine, donc de l'éducation africaine, qui passe aussi, qui procède aussi par la religion. Et je vais très brièvement dire ici ce que j'entends par religion dans mes propres recherches et dans mes réflexions. Parce que souvent, les gens ont l'impression que les religions nous séparent. Mais c'est par une grande méconnaissance de ce que c'est ce qui nous est parvenu, de ce que nous appelons les religions. Pour la plupart des gens qui ont été éduqués comme moi ici et qui ont été éduqués dans la religion chrétienne à la base, nous avons une réflexion sur les religions qui viennent du christianisme. Et où, quand on dit religion, on veut lier, religare, etc., c'est ça que nous avons et que nous connaissons. Mais c'est une description tardive. Si nous voulons accéder à la religion, à la première traduction de la religion, il faut se référer à Cicéron. Parce que c'est Cicéron qui a traduit le lexique philosophique grec en latin. Et donc, le philosophe et juriste Cicéron, qu'est-ce qu'il nous dit dans sa traduction initiale? Il dit, religion, c'est recueillir les rites d'ancêtres. Point final. Alors, je crois que tous ceux qui sont croyants ici, aujourd'hui, sont d'accord avec moi que si je suis africain, j'ai recueilli les rites d'ancêtres. Si quelqu'un est européen, il a recueilli les rites d'ancêtres. Nous pouvons dialoguer avec. qu'on soit en Chine, etc. et tout, c'est de ça qu'il s'agit. Des traductions tardives qui permettent de relier, etc. et qui ont d'autres raisons que nous ne pouvons pas débattre ici. Mais c'est juste pour vous dire que quand j'entends vous m'entendez parler de religion, je m'adresse à tous ceux qui sont ici dans un dialogue direct. Parce que j'estime qu'ils ont tous recueilli ceci est mon corps, ceci est mon sang. C'est un rite et c'est quelque chose qu'on a transmis aux uns et aux autres. Comme les Africains aussi ont ce qu'ils ont amené. Donc, la religion est dès lors l'espace dans lequel l'Africain fait son expérience de son intériorité. Parce que l'intériorité est très importante dans ce contexte. Parce que nous tous qui sommes croyants ici, c'est la quête d'une certaine intériorité qui nous habite. Parce que le monde extérieur a beaucoup de batailles, a beaucoup de problèmes, mais si nous voulons réfléchir sur lui, on dirait comme au XIXe siècle, il nous faut fabriquer une église intérieure. Il faudrait que nous habitions une église intérieure. Donc, c'est un des aspects qu'on va retrouver beaucoup aussi dans les religions africaines qui traitent donc ici des univers sur, évidemment, les espaces de ce que nous avons dit tout à l'heure. Et je vais vous dire ce que, dans le domaine des religions, dans la saisie qui permet d'avoir la saisie du proprium africain, aux égards des visions qui sont des perceptions traditionnalistes, comme nous le rappelle toujours Honora ici, la religion africaine, en un certain sens, est l'effet et la source de la civilisation de l'oralité. Alors, la civilisation de l'oralité, ça mérite que je m'arrête une seconde pour le dire, parce qu'en général, l'oralité est souvent perçue comme, en fait, l'absence ou faute de texte, ou faute d'écrit. Chez les Africains, c'est une idéologie. C'est-à-dire que la religion doit être transmise par les vivants. Il ne faut pas de livre, il ne faut pas de texte. Il faut que la société se reproduise et qu'elle puisse produire des humains à travers lesquels la religion prospère, la religion se répand, la religion est vivante. La religion ne doit pas être mortelle. D'où la civilisation de la religion à ne pas confondre avec l'oralité, à ne pas confondre avec l'oralité tout court. Bon, le temps est trop court. Je vais certainement m'arrêter puisqu'il est 2 minutes, mais j'ai donné là quelques éléments, et y compris aussi pour les éléments sur la paix. On aura l'occasion certainement de publier ce que je vais écrire, et à l'occasion, certains pourront le lire. Mais c'est juste pour donner un aperçu que la pensée africaine, dans son autonomie, a quelque chose à apporter aussi dans ce concert dans lequel nous sommes, pour faire vivre véritablement la religion. Et soyons des résistants pour continuer à dire que la religion est nécessaire. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Professor Batamak. I think Professor Batamak has explained how traditional African education helps young people by focusing on the community. So the elders, the ancestors, they're teaching us the life license, not the school license, through the stories and the special ceremonies, like what we did in a couple of years before, the ancestral remembrance ceremony. We pay tribute to all the ancestors, not only the Asian people, the African people, paying tribute to all the ancestors. So another thing is we are quite impressed because I think the Buddhists sharing the same wisdom with the African traditional culture is that we also learn from the teachers sharing the wisdom, like Sixth Alley, our master and Venerable Wuxing told us, sharing wisdom from the Buddhist teachers and the elders. And this one has already shows how different cultures use a similar method to help young people grow and feel supported. Then we have our second panelist, Reverend Kosho Onyoka. Representative abbot of N2G Temple, Tokyo, director of the International Department of Japan Buddhist Federation, representative of the World Fellowship Buddhist. Today's reverend's topic is Buddha's teaching and the well-being of the youth. Reverend Chongyoka, please.
First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for this opportunity. It is an honor for me to be here. My name is Tomioka, and I am from the Japan Buddhist Federation. There are over 75,000 Buddhist temples in Japan, many of which belong to one of the major denominations. Japan Buddhist Federation, JBF, is the only federation of traditional Buddhism in Japan, which consisting of 105 organizations. And we belong to the World Fellowship of Buddhism, WFB, one of the hosts of this event. When you visit Japan, you will notice that there are temples everywhere you walk. Each village has its own small temple. I belong to a denomination called Rinzai in Chinese, Rinjitsu, which originated in China. There are many denominations and various Buddhist teachings. Of course, the teaching are most important things, but today I would like to introduce some specific initiatives at Japanese temples, particularly those creating spaces for children who are truant as well as those with autism, developmental disabilities. So truant children, according to the survey conducted in 2024, there are approximately 9 million elementary and junior high school students in Japan. Of these, about 350,000 children were judged to be truant from school. A 50% increase from previous year and the largest number ever recorded. The number of teenage suicides is over 100 per year, and the number of social withdrawal in Japan as a whole is a record high, 1,460,000. A person who has withdrawn from society is one of the biggest social problems in Japan. The largest survey shows that in 2024, there will be 686,000 class per year in Japan, the lowest number in 9 consecutive years. The number of this in 2024 was 1,605,000. This means 901,000 fewer people per year. The declining birth rate is accelerating year by year, and the number of workers in Japan is expected to increase further in the future. So temples. Here's one temple that is working with such truant children. Jodo Temple, located in Nagoya City, Japan, operates a free school called Terakoya for children who are not attending school. In Japan, until Edo period, many temples had education facilities called Terakoya. These served as a place to teach common people skills such as reading, writing, arithmetic, and agriculture. While such aspects have diminished in recent times, some temples are actively striving to revive these activities. At Jodo Temple, they accept children who are not attending school and provide a safe environment where they can interact with friends. Engage in these seasonal activities like tea picking and bamboo shooting, or camping, and more, all without any pressure. Even children who are not attending school have a desire to be connected with others. For such children, having a place where they can come every day and enjoy themselves can be a significant opportunity that shapes their future lives. In philosophy, Their philosophy is to create safe and secure place for children. They never say, you must go to school. Not going to school is not bad. It's okay to go to school, and it's okay not to go. They respect the children's choices. The fourth thing they focus on is making the children feel that this place is safe, this place is fun. When the children feel the way, they talk a lot, become more energetic. They do not engage in religious activity or impose moral teaching. Instead, they listen to the children as they call and always take the stance of being their allies. Each children's personality and growth are unique, whether they develop slowly or quickly. It does not matter. The intention is for them to experience many things and grow at their own pace. An issue in Japan. One of the reasons for increase in the number of students not attending school in Japan is the increase in digital information. They feel that they have fewer opportunities to direct contact for communication than before, and we identify three major issues. Number one, irregular lifestyle. Due to the influence of social media, games, and smartphones, children are going to bed waking up later and they are not tired. And second, picky eating. Due to the influence of the picky eating, such as too many sweets, children have thin body, light, and no stamina. And number three, academic abilities. Additionally, academic performance is declining, and the number of children who cannot fly is also increasing. And the solutions we are practicing are exercise and food education and study. So one is to improve an irregular lifestyle through exercise, to improve picky eating, provide nutritional guidance, experience learning and cooking, to improve academic ability. Start with simple things for 30 minutes. They are often voice of joy from children and parents regarding the changes. And since children started going to Terakoya, they no longer have to argue every day about whether he will go to school or not. And he enjoys going there so much that he doesn't want to miss a single day from the very first day he started attending. It's a great start for parents too. This is a work of Miss Watanabe, who retired after working as a teacher at an elementary school for 10 years and now works at Shirakoya. She said, they are children with various personalities. I have experienced the sadness and hardship of children losing their space in society once they fall outside the Japanese education system. The fact that temple can provide such a place is of great significance. There are small temples all over Japan. We are working to enable each temple to carry out these initiatives. The ultimate goal is designing one's own life. Regardless of the era, we aim to create opportunity for children to grow at their own pace and in their own way, while safeguarding a safe, a secure environment where they can design a meaningful life for themselves. Next, I would like to talk about effort related to autism and developmental disabilities. According to 2022 survey by the Ministry of Education, Culture, Sports, Science, and Technology, 8.8% of elementary and junior high school students enrolled in regular classes may have developmental disabilities that cause difficulty in learning and behavior. This is an increase of 2.3% from previous survey in 2012. In a class of 35 students, this could be equivalent to about 3 students. The increase is thought to be due to greater awareness of developmental disability, and the challenge now is to develop support measures related to each individual need. In Japan, understanding and support for autism spectrum disorder has been growing, with initiatives expanding across education, welfare, and employment. The Ministry of MIXT has established special support class in elementary and junior high school for children with autism or emotional disorders. These classes offer individual curricula that use visual aid and communication strategy tailored to each student. Also, the Tokyo Metropolitan Board of Education has been enhancing educational support for children with autism by expanding specialized programs in special needs schools. They have also developed instructional materials such as social skill learning to support classroom practice. Also, there is community-based initiatives like Mitaka City in Tokyo. These initiatives aim to help individuals with autism live independent lives through appropriate support in education, employment, and community life. Collaboration across education, medical, welfare, and religious sectors continue to be crucial in building a more inclusive society. And temple initiatives. Here is one temple that working with such children with disability and autism. Shorin Temple in Tokyo provides a place where children with developmental disability, autism, and physical disability, and their family can gather once or twice a month. For example, they hold traditional Japanese events that are usually difficult for these children to participate in calmly. And they also hold a mobile aquarium in the temple's main hall, creating a place where they can enjoy themselves. There, they first introduce themselves, have conversation over lunch, and enjoy themselves at the entertainment. Visiting nurse also volunteer to attend. Lunch is catered for by temple members. The menu responds to requests. Many families are unable to cook elaborate dishes because they cannot keep an eye on their children. So requests for fried food are often made on the menu. For example, for family photo shoots, we invite a photographer and hair and makeup artist to the temple, where parents can also have their hair and makeup done. And memorial service is held at the same time. Every year, the 50 slots available are quickly filled, and the event is very popular. While it is wonderful that event is so well received, it also makes us realize that there are few places where children with disability and their families can enjoy themselves. And our philosophy is to value time to talk. We want participants to share their daily anxieties and thoughts with each other so that they can feel that they are not alone. While it is a place for children, we also want to bring smiles to their families. participants often say that it is a place where parents who share the same anxiety can communicate with each other in a safe environment. In conclusion, times are changing dramatically. A diverse society where people of different ethnicities, religion, genders, and abilities coexist is spreading to the world of children as well. It is natural for people to be different from one another, and accepting that is what makes a society mature. Of course, this is in line with Buddhist teaching and religious teaching, but simply by providing a space more, temples can empower children and their parents to move toward a bright future. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Reverend Tomioka. The Reverend Tomioka has shared a concrete example of how Japanese temples support the youth well-being through like free terracotta schools and special gathering place for children with special development disorders. They all make the children can feel accepted and engaged at their own path. So finally, we have our last panelist, Mr. Stefan Kopuka, researcher and PhD candidate from Institute of East Asia Study of France and National Institute of Oriental Language and Civilizations. Stefan has been staying with the Buddhist communities for years, and he speaks very fluent Chinese. Stefan, please take the floor.
Distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and dear friends, it's a profound honor to be standing in front of you today as we gather for the last panel of this morning. I know we are running a bit late on time, and I'm behind schedule, and I stand between you and lunch, so that's not the position time that I try to keep it short and brief. But I'd like to build upon the points made before by our panelists, but also by the panels of yesterday, and move on from that. According to the American Psychological Association, 27% of adults they report debilitating stress, with youth particularly vulnerable. An alarming proportion of adults reported stress has an impact on their day-to-day functioning, with more than a quarter of the study saying that in most days they are so stressed that they can't really cope. They can't function. Nearly half of those, that's 46%, are under 35. So when stress makes us want to shut down, having people to turn to is key. Social support is critical for mental well-being because we're social creatures, and having people to care for, support us, and share our life is a source of joy and connection. So it turns out social support isn't just something that makes us happy, but also something that minimizes the effects of stress. So social support helps us reduce stress by providing resources we need to thrive. But what is social support, and what are the types of social support, basically? Simply put, social support refers to a network of friends, family, and other community members who can provide help in times of need. This includes emotional support, informational support, tangible support, but also belonging social support. So in the remainder of my presentation, I'd like to focus on emotional and belonging social support. Because a growing body of research suggests that participation in religious communities through regular gatherings in sacred spaces, shared rituals, and mutually reinforcing belief systems serve as a powerful buffer against the stresses that, by providing social support, structured meaning-making, and embodied practices that foster psychological resilience. The study also demonstrated higher religiousness is linked to lower depressive symptoms under stress that attendance at religious services reduces work-family conflict-related distress, and that emotional support from congregants more effectively protects mental health than self-support from secular networks in specific contexts. So functionally speaking, tradition and religions, they provide stable routines, worldviews, ritual calendars, dietary codes, and shared symbols that help adherents to reframe adversity, cultivate a collective identity, and access both instrumental and emotional support when under duress. But to understand why this is happening, or why religious communities or traditional concepts have this offering effect, we must examine the underlying structures that enable them to function effectively. So I'm going to try to turn to a more theoretical perspective. Traditions, they can be understood as intergenerational systems of practice, ritual belief that offer continuity, existential orientation. They are not static relics, but dynamic adaptive structures that help individuals to navigate uncertainty, especially during life transitions or periods of heightened stress. For example, identity crises from academic demands and so on. Traditions may supply predictable rhythms that create a sense of temporal structure and emotional safety. Festivals, weekly worship gatherings, or vegetarian observances and daily recitations, they act as a temporal anchor that stabilize routines. So for instance, in the Kula tradition of Buddhism, the recitation of Amitabha's Buddha's name, which is in Chinese Yin form, becomes a cognitive and emotional tool for recentering the self, especially in moments where you feel lost. These rituals, they also impact individuals in broader moral and cosmological narratives when one faces hardship. Tradition provides the necessitative frameworks, and suffering may be viewed not as senseless pain, but a calming lesson from a Buddhist perspective. A test of endurance or the opportunity for spiritual growth. So, for Master Jing Kong, in his framework, this logic is also paired with Confucian values such as filial piety and moral integrity, which further reinforce the idea that every person's struggle is in fact nested in a larger ethical continuum. Moreover, traditions they prescribe collective responses to individuals' distress, such as I said before, prayer circles, community rituals, and so on. They are rooms for empathy. And in times of grief, for example, the community may gather together to share stories, to chant sutras, and so on. So in this sense, tradition functions both psychologically, by providing scripts for reframing adversity, and socially, by organizing communal care in times of need. And this is especially powerful for young people who feel unmoored in a secular, individualistic society as we have them today. So, as for religion, religion operates as a comprehensive social institution that transcends individual belief to structure relationship, practice, and moral worldviews. Religious communities create what the French sociologist Émile Durkheim called collective evanescence, which is a feeling of being uplifted through shared rituals and moral purpose. So in the Buddhist tradition, this concept, if you're Buddhist, you could understand it from being sort of having a feeling of joy in the Dharma, which in Chinese is called Huanxi, having the joy of learning and teaching and practicing the Dharma. So for the youth who often seek a coherent sense of identity and belonging, the community formed through shared ritual practice can serve as a second family. So in Master Jing Kong's model, this is formalized through shared structure, moral education, intergenerational mentorship, and community living environments that replicate an extended family. Through his founding of educational centers and transnational laborers communities in places like Taiwan, Malaysia, Australia, and so on, Master Jing Kong, he established practical environments where young people could engage in ethical cultivation, intergenerational mentorship, and communal rituals. These institutions they embody his vision and of tradition as a lived guidance for navigating modern challenges. Most crucially, religion offers what psychologist Kenneth Peregrine refers to as sacred meaning-making structures. In this model, religion does not just provide distraction or temporal comfort. It reframes suffering itself as a spiritual, meaningful, purposeful object. For example, from the Buddhist traditional perspective, Buddhism interprets suffering as a natural feature of this samsaric experience, samsaric meaning the circle of rebirth. But it also presents it as a pathway towards wisdom and liberation. Within this framing, personal failure or loss is not a detour, but a crucial part of the journey towards awakening. Just like Master Jingpa also often emphasized that one's environment is a reflection of one's mind. So by transforming one's inner world through moral cultivation and ritual practice, community engagement, and so on, one gradually transforms the outer world as well. So this holistic, meaning-making centered approach is profoundly different from secular models of stress management that focus on symptoms or symptom control rather than the existential integration. Now, where these insights apply broadly across the traditions, I find them remarkably nuanced and practical expressions in Buddhism. So particularly addressing suffering, community, and moral development. So from a Buddhist perspective, what modern psychology calls stress is entwined in the experience of dukkha. Dukkha is a Sanskrit word which is a key concept in Buddhism, which is often translated as suffering. But suffering does not capture the meaning of dukkha. It is more accurately translated as something unsatisfactory, something that's more like instability or a mental affliction. Because the causes of dukkha, they are not just external, they are internal. They arise from greed, hatred, delusion, and so on, which distort perception and reaction. So where secular models, they see stress as a response to external factors or external demands exceeding your coping mechanisms. Buddhist thought sees it as a symptom of grasping and aversion, of craving permanence in an impermanent world. So the Buddha's teaching that reframe this not as a pathology, but as a spiritual opportunity and an opening to develop mindfulness, equanimity, and compassion. So, just as I previously mentioned, in terms of the function of religion, Buddhism emphasizes also the community of practitioners. The community of practitioners is one of the three jewels of Buddhism. So we have the Buddha, who is the teacher, the Dharma, teachings, and the Sangha, which is the community of the learners. And this elevates social connection to a sacred level. In contrast to individual approaches to stress management, Buddhism sees healing as fundamentally relational. So if you're in a community, they are sort of a support network. This Sangha-based support mirrors what developmental psychologists identify as protective factors, such as consistent adult figures, pro-social peer group values, value-based communities, intergenerational dialogues, and so on. So if you learn the Buddhist tradition, the one that we find in Taiwan and other places of the world, these dynamics are intensified through communal recitation of Amitabha Buddha or scriptures or story sharing moments. Right? Now, in Buddhist terms, resilience is not just a capacity to bounce back. So it is a capacity to transform adversity into insight and virtue. This is exemplified, for instance, in the concepts of patience, learning, in effort, Jingji. 2 of the 6 perfections practiced on the path to awakening. So resilience emerges not through resistance, but through non-reactivity, awareness and ethical clarity. Mindfulness, for instance, is not just simply about staying calm in moments of distress, but about observing one's inner landscape without grasping or fleeing, and learning how to respond with compassionate wisdom. So for the youth, these capacities are best nurtured not just through solitary meditation, but through immersive environments that model and reinforce them. This is exactly what I found from youth research in different parts of the world where Master Jingpa established educational communities. Moreover, traditional practices such as vegetarianism, piety, and self-cultivation, they serve both as ethical disciplines and behavioral regulators, encouraging restraint, empathy, and long-term thinking. They are deeply protective, offering stability and purpose amidst the volatility of adolescent life. Now, in our current era, young people, they're contending with a convergence of psychological, social, and existential challenges. The digital age, while expanding access to information and connection, it also brings constant comparison, overstimulation, and fragmented attention. Many of youth, they report feeling overwhelmed, lonely, and even disconnected, despite being more connected than ever before. Against this backdrop, Buddhist approach to suffering, community, and resilience offers not just a therapeutic value, but also wisdom. Because Buddhism does not promise to eliminate stress, right? Instead, it reinterprets it as a fundamental aspect of human life and provides tools, be it philosophical, ethical, or practical, to engage with it in clarity, with clarity and compassion. So where secular models, they may reduce stress to a neurochemical imbalance in your brain or somewhere else, Buddhism sees it as a part of a deeper existential misalignment, again as the result of craving permanence in an impermanent world, for grasping of for identity in a flux of different conditions. This diagnosis is radical in that it shifts the focus from external control to your inner world, to your inner mind, to inner transformation. So for the youth to be immersed in cultures of achievement, comparison, and perfectionism, this perspective can be liberating. It relieves the burden of having to be happy all the time or having to be productive all the time. It replaces it with a path of steady cultivation rooted in self-acceptance and moral clarity. So to counter stress, Buddhism does not just isolate the mind from the body or from the individual from the community. It responds in integrated, embodied, and communal ways. Practices such as chanting, mindfulness, meditation, ethical discipline, and compassion-based rituals provide an integrated framework for navigating life's instabilities. So in contrast to fragmented self-help routines, the Buddhist tradition offers ritualized stability, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly cycles that regulate emotions and foster a sense of belonging. So, but perhaps the most transformative contribution of Buddhism is its shift from a worldview in trying to fix everything out there, or trying to escape it, to learning how to dwell within it. Learn from it and even grow through it. So this reframing is essential for building what psychologists call meaning-making, or meaning-based coping mechanisms. Again, resilience is not bouncing back to a former state, it's about moving forward to a more profound understanding. A young person who fails an exam, loses a friend, or even feels lost in life is not apologized, but invited to a process of reflection. So what's the cause of suffering? What attachments are involved? And what wholesome actions can I now take? And Master Jiko here emphasized this moral dimension of resilience, cultivating patience, speech, reflection, reverence for others, and not just as abstract virtues, but as something that we can incorporate in our daily life that trains emotional and moral fortitude. So, contemporary youth, they face what another psychologist calls existential vacuum, the loss of meaning, the loss of direction, or anchoring values. And in this sort of vacuum, rates of anxiety, depression, and self-harm, they rise as we heard before. Even in materially affluent societies, such as in France and Germany and Japan and other parts of the world, Buddhist traditions can fill this vacuum with ethical orientation and relational belonging. Through community, ritual, and practice, youth, they come to see themselves as part of a moral cosmos, interconnected with others, accountable for their actions, and capable of transformation. So the world that often treats them as consumers, or content creators on TikTok and whatnot. Buddhism offers a radically different identity, that of a seeker, a cultivator, or a being on the path. And these insights, they are not just theoretical, they offer practical guidance for educators, policymakers, and community leaders who wish to support the youth. So the implication of this inquiry are both practical and urgent. So if we accept that Buddhist communities or the faith-based community, value-based communities have teachings that offer powerful tools for the youth in fostering resilience, then we must begin to rethink how we can engage religious traditions in public mental health and educational strategies. So for instance, we could partner with faith communities. Public institutions such as schools, mental health services, and community centers they can benefit from collaborative partnerships with Buddhist or other faith-based communities. We could also try to sort of reintroduce a ritual or a rhythm in secular settings. What I mean by this is even outside of the explicit religious context, be it in a temple, be it in a church, be it in a shrine or wherever. You could incorporate elements of that into your daily routine, into your daily schedules, such as, for instance, before you go shower, sit down in the morning and to focus yourself on one thing and then to actually do it. So it's kind of a meditational practice for your personal motivation. It will also revive cultural literacy, something that is important for Master Jikong, who reminds us that traditional culture is not just a burden but a resource. Embedding young people in value-rich environments helps us to anchor them in identities that are not just purely performative or driven by consumerism. So in short, we must move beyond the view that traditional cultures and the traditional value systems are something of the private sphere, something that could be incorporated even into our secular environments, be it here in France or in other parts of the world. So in conclusion, as we see in the teachings of the Buddha, they provide a coherent and compassionate response to the growing crises of youth mental health. They offer more than just coping strategies. They provide a way of living life rather than meaning, relationship, and transformation. So let us not underestimate the potential of sacred spaces, religious communities, to serve as dynamic sites of healing and resilience. In times when many young people feel spiritually adrift, ethically disoriented, or emotionally exhausted, Buddhism reminds us you are not alone. Your suffering is not senseless, and there is a path forward. So I invite educators, policymakers, and community leaders to re-engage religious and cultural tradition not as artifacts of the past, but something as resources of the present. Let us work together to create these environments, secular or sacred, that affirm dignity, nurture resilience, and help our youth to focus.